It's hard being a DC fan. So the Supergirl trailer, and especially the Lanterns trailer, is really proving what I had already feared, that Warner Brothers still has absolutely no clue why Marvel is tremendously more successful than them, at least when it comes to the movies. I'm pretty sure the comics are too, but definitely the movies. Now, obviously, Marvel has struggled a bit lately, and that's because they actually forgot their own secret. So, what I'm talking about is the first Iron Man all the way up to Endgame. Because after Endgame, like I said, they stopped doing this, they kind of forgot their own secret, which is why Marvel has been hit or miss since Endgame. Marvel used to have the approach of, hey, this character's cool, let's show people why this character's cool. And they would start with the core of the character, or a lot of people refer to it as the heart of the character, the main thing that makes this character interesting and unique, and then they would sort of build off of that. And yes, they would change things, they would make adaptations, they would change certain storylines to kind of blend with other storylines, etc., etc. It was never exactly like the comics, but it was close enough that if you were to ask someone, are the Marvel movies like the comics? Most people would just say yes, or they would at least say it's pretty close. Especially in terms of representing the heart of the character. Again, it may not be the exact storylines, but it's the same type of stories that you would see in the comics. Now, when you do it this way, both audiences win. The comic book fans win because they get to see their favorite characters doing their favorite things. And the casual moviegoer wins too, because most people just want to see good movies. They want to see good stories, compelling characters, interesting dilemmas, and cool, creative, fun stuff. And the comics have had this for a very long time, which is why comic book fans have been telling Hollywood for decades, even before the MCU, you can do it like the comics and it'll be widely successful. It'll appeal to a wider audience. Because we've always known comics were cool, but now thanks to the MCU, even the casual moviegoer knows that comics are cool. Because that's what changed. They did it like the comics, people saw it and was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. But again, the most important part is Marvel's approach is, this character's cool, let's show people why this character's cool. The Warner Brothers approach is, hey, this character could be cool if we changed this, if we took this away, if we went in this direction instead, etc., etc. And sadly, this applies even to the good ones. And the perfect example would be The Dark Knight. Don't get me wrong, I love The Dark Knight. I actually think it's one of the best movies ever made, not just in comics, but just movies, period. I think it's one of the best. But it is not a good representation of Batman. The whole premise of Nolan's movies was, hey, what if we took Batman out of the comics and put him in this more realistic environment? And whether or not you think it worked is irrelevant. The goal wasn't, hey, let's just make a good Batman movie. Now, some people will defend this, saying they had to make it different than the other movies, but I got news for you. The Burton films and the Schumacher films really weren't like the comics either. So you could have done a Batman movie like the comics and it still would have been very different than those films. Another good example would be Man of Steel. They said, hey, what if we take Superman, this bright beacon of hope, who's the epitome of optimism and belief, and made him a darker, grittier character who's a lot more brooding and conflicted and blah, 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 blah. Or even more recently with the James Gunn Superman. That one was, hey, what if we kind of made Superman fun, but also made it like it was written by a 12-year-old with all these like dumb middle school jokes and all these incomplete storylines? I could go on because there's probably only about 3 or 4 DC movies that are actually a good representation of the comics. So now we have Supergirl, which doesn't look anything like Supergirl. It looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. And once again, people will try to defend this saying, oh, you're just saying that because it's in space. No, Star Trek and Star Wars are both in space, but they have always been very distinctly different. And when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I didn't think it was like Star Trek or Star Wars. So you can be in space without being like Guardians of the Galaxy. That's kind of a dumb defense. And now with Lanterns, it appears they're kind of going for like a gritty, true crime detective story, which just doesn't make any sense. I mean, Green Lantern is the intergalactic police. He could go anywhere. The ring allows him to do anything. the sky's the limit doesn't apply here. There is no limit. You could go beyond the sky. And instead, they're saying, no, we're not even going to look at the sky. We're just going to make this as grounded as possible. It's just stupid. So yeah, I'm just waiting for this to be over. Hopefully the next reboot will be better. But I don't know.